Sounds good.
Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Patrice Boyles. I'm the director for the Center for Teaching and Research Excellence, and I am here with one of my colleagues, uh, and she's going to introduce herself.
Yes, hi. Hello, everyone. My name is Nicole Matthews, and I am the Assistant Director of the Abilities Office.
Awesome. Okay, so we're going to give you some information today, and we really want to help students become successful in preparing for their final exams. So again, welcome to our workshop, Student Academic Success, Preparation for Final Exams. The purpose of this workshop is to provide students with test taking and study skills. We can also give students tips on how to deal with test anxiety, and I also want to demonstrate and let you know how to use some of the technology tools to review content for your exams. Now, you might be asking yourself, what is test anxiety? It's really performance anxiety. You might be feeling worried. You might have a fear about an upcoming test or a quiz. Don't worry, we've all been there. So we're going to share with you a couple of tips on how to deal with it. Breathe. It might sound funny, but just taking deep breaths helps relieve the anxiety. You want to also review the content. If your instructor gave you a review of what to expect on exam, review the content. Avoid cramming. Before the night of your exam or the day of your exam, make sure you get a good night's sleep. You don't want to be tired trying to look at a screen for a couple of hours. You want to make sure you have eat healthy foods, fruits, nuts, mint, cinnamon, a bowl of oatmeal, nothing greasy, nothing fried. If you have time, you might want to exercise that night before or the morning before to help relieve some stress. I also highly recommend you joining a study group. Yes, you can join study groups and create study groups virtually. And because there's so many different technology tools you can really use for reviewing your content. Ms. Matthews?
All right, that's great information. So, I like what you said about preparation, right? No cramming the night before, the day before, the day of the test, right? So you want to have a plan. And before you take that test and before you even start to study, it's great to have a strategy. So we're going to talk a little bit more about the strategy later. But before your test, you want to have a checklist that includes a calendar with those study groups that Dr. Boyles encouraged you to create. You want to make sure you have the meeting dates on there, your topics of each test, each course and such, any previous quizzes that you can review, and some practice problems. Also, ask your instructor if they're going to provide a study guide or the rubric for your final. Make sure that your computer is working, you have a strong Wi-Fi connection, and that's not going to give out on you in the middle of the test. If you are doing the open book exam, make sure you write down keywords and formulas and such to have handy. And I'll discuss that a little bit more later as well. But another thing you can do, if it's an open book test and it's open note, sometimes it's very helpful to do a brain dump, right? So where you go into the exam and before you even start the exam, you just kind of write out everything that you know and just have it sitting there, if that's open book, open notes, okay? Also, make sure you're utilizing your resources. We have tutor.com, the Learning Assistance Center, your academic advisor. All of those are very good resources for you to help you get prepared for final exams. Okay, so when I discuss strategy, here is a strategy that you can use as a study plan. It's called the 5-day study plan. So, what you want to do is make sure you're spacing out your studying over 5 days, at least 5 days, and think of it as 5 days per course, right? So, if you're taking 4 courses, you may need more than 5 days because you don't want to study for 4 courses every day of your 5-day study plan, right? So, maybe it'll take 9 days. Um, so, you are going to divide your material up into manageable chunks. You'll look at the chunks. I actually have a video here that we can watch that explains the 5-day study plan a little bit better. So
I'm gonna stop
if you'd
sharing.
like to, I'm sorry.
Would you like me to stop sharing so you can share?
Yes, please.
Okay.
All righty, here we go. So let's take a look at this 5-day study plan video here.
You might want to put that link in the chat box.
Great idea. Sorry.
That's okay.
All righty. So that was the 5-day study plan. And as Dr. Boyles and I go into the rest of the production here, we will dig a little bit deeper into some of those tools that you can use during your 5-day study plan. But a couple of things before we get into the tools is that you want to make sure that you're realistic about your time, be realistic about what you know and what you don't know, and be realistic about your process, right? So, although it's great to be, confident and have a plan, is it realistic for you to say, I'm going to study 10 hours a day for 10 days to prepare for finals, right? I don't know if many of us can do that. And actually, it's not. I'm sorry, it's not a good idea either, because you have to take study breaks, right? So let me go ahead and drop for that video right there in the chat, so you can go back and view that 5-day study plan video if you'd like, or whenever you'd like. And then Dr. Boyles is going to discuss some of the tools that you can use for studying in preparation for your finals. Oh, we can't hear you, Dr. Boyles. Can't hear you.
Okay, can you hear me now? Sorry, I took myself off of mute, on mute. Okay, Ms. Matthews mentioned had some great visual aids, and she also mentioned something very important, and that was you need to test yourself. What better way than testing yourself than creating flashcards? There are several tools that you can use that are free to create flashcards. One tool that you can use is Quizlet.com. Now, on Quizlet.com's website, they brag that 90% of the students get higher grades. How about that? You can actually create flashcards. You can create your own tests. You can actually have little games that you play. So why not create flashcards in your study group and share those cards and practice your content? Another one is recording your notes. This is one tool that I did when I was in school, and it still works, ladies and gentlemen. There are free tools that you can use to create podcasts. Some of you might just use your phone to record notes. You can do that. Other tools that you can use is Audacity. It's free. Just when you record on Audacity, once you download it on your computer, make sure you export it as a WAV file. Another free tool that you can use to record your notes is Vukaroo. Again, read your notes, record it, listen to it, your notes while you're on the train, doing housework, etc. Reinforcing what you need to learn. Something else you can do that I mentioned was those study groups. Zoom.us is free to a certain extent. And guess what? Just what you need, you can use Zoom for. You can actually create virtual study groups online. And something else you can do is create a digital corkboard. You know, the Post-it notes, I'm famous for Post-it notes. I have them all over my office at work, my office at home. You can have a digital corkboard with Post-it notes with your notes. Because it's digital, you can share it, right? And you can also use a tool that most people are familiar with, which is Google Docs. Because with Google Docs, it's a collaborative tool, and you can go ahead and type in information. Your partner in your class can type in information, and it's in real time. Those are some cool tools that you can use for free that you probably already have access to. Ms. Matthews?
All right, great. Those were really cool tools. You can hear me okay, right?
Yes.
One of the things I like, I had never seen that digital cork board, but I have used something called Padlet. If you're familiar with that, it's very similar to a digital cork board, and you can work with your study group in real time. Now, we're giving you different tools to use, and we're talking about spacing out your time and how you're going to approach your study your study time. When you're reviewing your content, it'll help if you're using a format, right? So the format we'll discuss here is called the SQ3R method. And it's an outline method for reviewing your content, okay? So the SQ3R stands for survey, question, read, recite, and review. In the survey, let's take, for example, through a chapter, right? A chapter of a book. So the survey portion of that is doing the pre-read, going through the chapter, doing what some of my old students would call the hard scan. Okay, so you're going to do a hard scan. You'll go through, look at all the boldface, the headings, subheadings, take a look at the objectives at the beginning of the chapter, the review questions at the end of the chapter, to give you a sense of what this material is about, period, right? So, oh, we're discussing sales. That's what this chapter is focused on, okay? You're going to pay attention to the graphs, charts, all of those things in your pre-read or in your survey, okay? Then you'll move on to the question step. So looking at that bold face, bold type, and headings and subheadings, you're going to use that information to create questions. Those questions are going to help guide your study process, right? If you're looking at unfamiliar words, write those down. That'll be a question. Use some of those review questions as a question, because as you're doing that pre-read, you're saying like, I don't know anything about the mitochondria. Like, what is that? In fact, I don't even know how to pronounce it. Those will be your questions, right? Let me make sure I know how to spell mitochondria. I think that's how you say it. Make sure I know what it does and what it sits next to in the cell, okay? Then, once you've done all of your pre-work, you're going to actually actively read each section, right? You're going to keep those questions in mind as you read each section, because anytime you have a chapter or a body of material, you're going to have objectives that lets you know what that information is about. If it's a book chapter, you're going to have review questions that's like, hey, did you understand that information? So if you have your questions, that's how your questions should be formed, right? What am I supposed to get from this body of work? So as you go through, you read, you're going to actively read. You can use some of those strategies where you're recording yourself, you're highlighting, you're taking notes in colors that mean something to you, right? So you're using red for information that I didn't know, yellow for information that was just pretty much a review, right? You could even consider in your 5-day plan where you're going to do your chunking, those 4 squares, maybe your colors correspond to those 4 squares, right? So the information that you're confident in may be green. That's a go, right? The information that you may need to review could be yellow. That's, like a caution, right? The information that you're like, oh, this is new to me, maybe it's blue, new blue, right? And then the information that you're like, I had no idea that this thing even existed, maybe that needs to be red, right? Okay, but whatever works for you. So that's why we're giving you a lot of different strategies so that you can use what works for you in order to best prepare you for this test and to take the test, okay? After you've done your reading, you'll recite. And as Dr. Boyle said, this is a good place to have your study groups, right? You can do peer learning. So they say the best way to learn something is to teach it. So after I've read my chapter, I am going to teach Dr. Boyles. I'll say, hey, within the cell, we have the nucleus, the mitochondria. Did you know that the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell? And it's, you know, it has ions, and let me not display my ignorance about the cell, the anatomy of a cell right now. But I will teach that material to Dr. Boyles, and that way, because she's part of my study group, and that way I know that I know it. Me speaking it out loud is reinforcing it. And even when I sit down to take that exam and mitochondria pops up, I have a memory of it. Right? I remember where Dr. Boyles was standing. I remember the question she asked me, and I remember the agreement that we came to. Okay. And so you're going to review that information, connect it to different things. Like I said, you could connect it to your study group, your peer learning, and such.
Wow, what some great tips. Thank you so much, Ms. Matthews. Survey, question, read, recite, and review. That leads me to, guess what? More technology tools. Now, there are technology tools in our Moodle learning management system that many instructors use, and you should become familiar with if they make them available to you. One, your instructor can record their lectures. Now, by now, you should know lectures can be recorded in Zoom, GoToMeeting, or Big Blue Button. You, as the student, need to go back and listen to those recording lectures. Also, make sure that you listen to or review those discussion forums. A lot of times, discussion forums are introducing a chapter, discussing a chapter. It helps you review the materials that might be on that assignment or that quiz. Also, your instructor may have handouts, videos, resources, any PowerPoints, anything like that you need to review. Put it in a folder so you will be able to just go back and look at those materials. Your instructor may also use flashcards. This is a tool built in Moodle that students can have access to review content. Other tools that are available that instructors may want to use are the dialogue buttons, chats, forums, and wikis. These are all collaboration tools that students should take advantage of to help them review the content on exams. Ms. Matthews?
All right, those are some great tools. So if you listen to us, you'll hear how each section kind of draws from the previous section when it comes to studying and test taking. And that's because repetition is key to mastering information, right? So even here, you'll hear us repeating some tools and strategies and such, and it's because they work, right? So science or research has proven that engaging your senses while you're studying will aid in better recall of information, right? So we've got our five senses. We have hearing, touch, sight, smell, and taste. So sound, once again, here's the repetition, recording yourself, having a study group, talking to your peers, reading your notes out loud, doing the podcast, okay? Sight, using eye-catching colors to take notes, to relate your concepts to one another, okay? And maybe even in the video that we showed, you saw where the person was doodling, and you know, if that's something that you do and that helps you associate a term or a concept, then that helps as well. Smell. So your sense of smell is the strongest sense that's tied to memory, right? So you could think back to grandma, and we've got Thanksgiving coming up, or well, and so maybe the sweet potato pie, right? You can smell that, you know, you're drawn back to that memory. So, so one one concept that really works is using a pleasant odor, right? The great thing is that now we're in a remote environment and you can study in your own private space and take your test in your own private space. Maybe you can light your favorite candle, right? You got them from Bath and Body Works, $9. You had your 20% off coupon,
Yeah.
and yeah, right. So, but research has found if you are if you have that vanilla bean candle going while you're studying and you light that vanilla bean candle, when you take the test, that sense, that familiar scent can help jog your memory, right? Or you can use essential oils. You can put something on the wrist. Rosemary, peppermint, lemon are all shown to help evoke or invoke your memory. Also, touch or movement. I meant to bring my son's fidget toys in here. But you can have, if you've got a fidgeter, you can use that. If you have like molding clay or something, but it's suggested that you mold or knead to a rhythm as you study, right? And I am no music connoisseur. Well, I love music, but I don't know music like the science of music. But I read something that said it's good to use a 4-4 beat. So, if you think of, if any of you are familiar with the old movie Car Wash and the soundtrack, when the song comes on and it goes boom, 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 right? The boom, boom, boom. That's the 4-out-of-4 beat, right? So I don't know what the boom 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 is, but look it up on YouTube, and you'll be able to hear it. The Car Wash soundtrack. You'll hear the song, and maybe be led to a great movie if you've never seen it. Also, Dr. Boyle discussed or mentioned eating healthy snacks. Right, you want your body to be in the best shape possible, but also your sense of taste and even that kinesthetic feedback that you get while you're studying can also be used to help you recall that information as you're taking the test, right? So maybe you maybe you eat some almonds and you crack it on the side and you chew and you do that. I don't know if you want to eat an almond for every question, but depends on the test that you're taking. So using all of your senses, or the senses, smell is a good one, whichever sense that you choose to study, you want to try to replicate that or duplicate that as you're taking the test to help you recall things. Right? So during your test, as we said, you're going to recall on those senses that you used when you were studying. When you get that exam in front of you, read all of the directions. I know we don't like to read directions, right? That's why IKEA has the pictures for us when we go to put the furniture together. But read the directions. There's good information there, okay? Dress comfortable. You don't want to be unbuttoning your jeans while you're taking your exam, right? That's just, it takes your focus off. Make sure your camera is ready. Make sure your water is ready there. Minimize your distractions, lock your door. Visualize the material that you have written. So we're talking about the material that you wrote down during your study sessions, during your study group sessions, and also, if you have the opportunity, the information that you wrote down during your brain dump, right? As soon as you sat down to take your test, you were like mitochondria, nucleus, powerhouse, and such, okay? Hear the material that you have read out loud. So as you did your podcast, as you recorded yourself, as you just sat there and read, maybe you take a moment, you close your eyes, and you hear yourself repeating that information, right? If in doubt, breathe. We opened this up talking about test anxiety. Test anxiety definitely occurs before you take the test, but it can also arrest you during the test, okay? Don't let that happen, right? Don't open up that test packet and see 57 questions and become overwhelmed. Stop, breathe, at a 4 count, I will actually drop a link in the chat. So you're going to inhale at a count of 4, and then you'll hold for 4 counts, and then exhale for 4 counts. Now, I didn't do it at the rhythm that you're supposed to. It's not 1, 2, 3, 4. It's 1, 2, 3, 4. But I will I will drop a link in the chat so that you have a video that shows you how to do the 4-4-4 breathing method. So once you get to that question that's very difficult, do not become overwhelmed. Nothing stops you from breathing during this test. Ground yourself by breathing and stay confident. You know this information. You've studied it, you've reviewed it, you've taught other people, you know it. You know it. So don't spend too much time on the things that you don't know. Use that time for what you do know, and then you can come back for those that you don't know, or whatever strategy you choose. But most of all, stay confident. You've got this.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Well, this time we had Q&A, but we're here by ourselves, but we're recording. So again, your presenters for today, again, was Ms. Nicole Matthews, Assistant Director from the Abilities Office, and I am Dr. Patrice Boyles for the Center for Teaching and Research Excellence. I'm going to stop sharing my screen, but I do want to go ahead and give you a little bit more information about some resources. Why Ms. Matthews is typing in the chat box. She was going to put the links in there for you. The library is an excellent resource. While we are not closed, we're just shifting at Chicago State University. Please know that your librarians are there to help you. You can reach them. Ms. Charlene Snelling is the resource I was told to use. Her email address is C as in cat, S as in Sam, N as in Nancy, E as in egg, LLIN@csu.edu. And I'll put that in the chat box. And she is in the library. So please reach out to the library if you need resources. Some of the students might ask for the Learning Assistance Center. You should know about tutor.com. Tutor.com is a 24-hour tutoring service that is available to all of our students. And the Learning Assistance Center is not open face-to-face, but they are still available to help you. And I'm going to put the contact name in. That's Professor Jahan, and here is her contact information. And again, she's in the Learning Assistance Center. So again, I hope that this webinar was very informational. It helped you to give you some resources, relieve some anxiety, and I'm sure you're going to do well on your final exams. Ms. Matthews, do you have any final words?
Yes, you've got this. Study, go in strong, go in confident, remember to breathe. You've got this.
Great. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your semester.